Welcome to Demo 9. We're going to look at basic chart creation in this demo. Now when you go to create a chart, most of the time you will include the column titles of the data that you're going to select for your chart. There are times when you don't include that, and we'll see that a little bit later. So right now I want to select my 3 columns of information here starting at row 6. Dealing with the airlines and their monthly passenger totals for January 11 and January 10. So we'll find a chart. Once I have the data selected, we'll find the chart under Insert. Now you have a variety of charts here. We're just going to pick first just this column. And even under column, you have a variety of column charts to choose. We'll just go straight after the 2D, two-dimensional column chart. Notice when the chart comes up, you have your indicator of what the chart looks like based upon the numbers in the column, comparisons. Your horizontal bar over here is telling you a value. Now we know this to be the number of passengers. We're going to actually add a title over here to the side for this horizontal later. Down here it shows us our 2 column headers, January 10, January 11, and off to the right we have our legend, which tells us what each color represents. Now if I want to move this chart around, I have to click on the edge of the chart and move it around. I can resize the chart by going to a corner and expanding it. But each part inside is actually independent of the whole chart. So I can actually move things around inside. So you got to be careful that when you want to move the chart, you got to make sure that you're clicking the outer edge of the chart and not something just inside of the chart. So we need to click that border of the chart to move the whole chart. So it's always nice to move your chart out of the way so it doesn't hide your numbers. There's our chart. We can look at it. We can actually shrink down our sheet and move it underneath if we want to. Take it back up. When a chart is on the same sheet as the data, we call that an embedded chart. So it appears on the same sheet as the data. When the chart is active, just click on the chart and notice we have 3 new tabs that are chart tools. We have the design tab, which allows us to change the chart layout if we want. You get a small thumbprint here of different kinds of layouts. Where does the legend go? Do you want titles above your columns? Things like that. So you can practice playing with those. We can also change the chart color. Now for this particular chart, you probably don't want a uniform color like say for this style 4 example. So if you put the style 4 in there, notice it's a little hard to read some of those columns, which ones they really represent over here. So in this kind of situation when you've got a lot of data, the multiple color bars are far better to use. And it works from top to bottom, left to right. So this is Air Canada over here. And notice as I point at the bar, it tells me what it is, Air Canada, and what the value is. Next one is Alaska Airlines. Next one, next one, next one. Some of these are really, really small as far as their values, so you barely see them on the chart. Chart layout, different things I can do. Notice chart title, I could give this a chart. So let's put a title above the chart and we'll call it Passenger Totals for 10 and 11. And that automatically goes in as the title. Axis, that's what I was talking about earlier. The primary horizontal axis, which is the dates, January 10, January 11, we've already got that. Let's create a vertical axis. That's the one that goes on the side, a vertical axis. Goes along the edge. We'll just say number of passengers. Hit that and notice it comes up like that because I put it in a vertical idea. So there we have the number of passengers. So in this chart layout, you can work with different things. The legend, where do you want the legend? I don't want a legend. You can turn it off altogether. Where do you want the legend to show up? For example, I could put the legend on the bottom, and the chart would look like that. Keep it off to the right. So you can play with these things to get the chart to look exactly the way you want it to look. Format is just a matter of changing different kinds of styles in the letters that you're using. And again, remember, each one of these areas is different than the other areas. So each one, it can be done independently of all the other areas. As I click on the different parts, go over here to the number of passengers, go up here to format. Let's pick even a different look from that. Let's go with this one. Doesn't look very good, so it gives you the preview. I don't particularly like that. Let's just go with the purple and a little bit of shadow on that. So there's my chart after playing around with the font formats that are available to me. So now let's say I want to compare each of the airlines with their January 10 numbers. These two columns are not adjacent. These are non-adjacent columns. So if I went and clicked and selected, notice it includes B, and I don't want to include B in this. I just want A and C. It'd be easy to do A and B, but I want to do A and C. So what you do with this, and this one I'm not going to include the titles, what you do is you first select one of the rows of information, in this case the airlines, hold down your control key and select the other row of information that you want, in this case January 10 numbers. So you use your control key to select the second column that's not adjacent. Now I'm going to choose for this one a pie chart. Let's make it a 3D, what's called 3D exploding pie chart here. And when we get it, there is our exploding. Notice there's again no title. There's no numbers, no indicator of what's the size of these pie slices. We know who they belong to, but that's about it. So again, I'm going to move my chart up, give it a little bit of size, and notice all of my information. Whoops, I'm still missing United Airlines down here. So you have to notice, you have to watch what you're working with. There's United. Now I can have a complete chart here. And now with this pie chart, what's interesting is this area right over here. Under Design tab, you get a chart layout. And in the chart layout, it allows you to see or show information. This one right here will actually put percentages on each of the slices. So this is 16% of the whole pie. If you add them all up, that's 100%. So this particular airlines, if you hover over it, which is Horizon Air, has 16% of the population for January 10 out of Portland. Notice a chart title appeared. I can change that to a different look, and I can do it right here. Okay. Passengers for January 10. Go back to our chart, and this time instead of using this one, I'm going to use the first one. And the first one is the percentages plus who it is. Notice there's no legend appearing in this first one here. So I'm going to click on that, and notice now each one of the slices is identified, who they are, and what percent of the pie they get. Little crowded around the outside edge, but this works okay. We're going to do something here in just a moment in looking at this. Let's expand our page out. Let's view, so I can move this chart one more time out of the way so I can create another chart. Come back in. We're going to do the same thing we just did, except I'm going to do it with the changes, the percent changes. So I select my airlines, Control key, select the changes, and this time I'm going to pick a chart that's a bar chart. Bar chart is just kind of a column chart flipped over 90 degrees. So we're going to pick a bar chart here and do a comparison of these airlines based upon the percentage change that happened from January 10 to January 11, straight bar chart. The reason I'm doing this is some of the numbers are negatives, just to show you what happens when you do this with a negative value. Move my chart by clicking on the edge, expand my chart, and you can see now with this particular bar chart we have negative numbers, negative percents, and positive percents change. This series over here is the legend as it interprets it. Since there was no title, I can just click on that and delete it if I want to. I don't need that over there. So this is just a comparison. Again, if I wanted to, I could add a title to chart title. It's above percent change. So now I have three charts. They're all embedded charts for this particular set of data. What I want to do now is move these charts to their own sheets. Moving the charts to their own sheets. Now, moving a chart is not the same as copying and pasting. Watch what happens. I'm going to take this chart right here, our percent change chart. Going to do a Control C, which will actually copy the chart. Go to another sheet and do Control V. So the chart has moved to its own sheet. Unfortunately, this is not what it means to move a chart. This is just copying and pasting. Copying and pasting. I'll show you what it means to move a chart. When you click on a chart and you go up to Design, at the very right hand side it says Move Chart. Change its location. What that means is, do you want it to be embedded? In what sheet do you want it to be embedded? And that's just what I did when I moved it to sheet 2. That was a copy and paste. I could have done it right here as well and said, hey, I want it to go to sheet 2. But a new sheet, and I can actually give it a title right here, or I can do it afterwards. This is going to be the title of the tab, percent change. Okay, percent change. But it's going to a new sheet, and watch what happens when we get a new sheet. It takes up the whole sheet. So you get one complete sheet as opposed to it just being embedded on a sheet. So I'm going to get rid of this sheet right here. Do a right click and say delete and say, yep, I want to delete that. So over here is my percent change chart on a new sheet. Let's go back to sheet 1 and notice the percent change chart is gone because we moved it. So let's do that with each of the other ones. This is our passenger total. Let's move that. Go here and we'll just say I want to leave that chart too. There's my passenger total. Back to sheet 1. My passengers in January. Move. New sheet. And we'll just say Passengers in January 10, hit OK. Notice the names of the tabs. This one, because we didn't name it, it's named Chart 2. I can right click and rename it. It's called Passenger Totals. The Enter key, again, I can put a color on each one of these. And my sheet 1 is the PDX data, so I'll rename that. I don't need sheet 3, so I'll get rid of sheet 3. And I'll take PDX data and I'll move it to the front of all of the charts. So there is a way of setting up your data with multiple charts and having your data available to you, as well as a very good look at each one of these charts that you have created based upon that data.